You don't have much banking on the entrance to hold you in there. So flat entrance, easy to get loose. Easy to miss the bottom too.
And when you miss that bottom, the car just doesn't turn as good. I always like to have my left front tire right on that white line. I always felt like there was more grip. And it's also one of those racetracks in turn 1 and 2. That corner is so long. If you wrap it just a little less, then you can get and be aggressive with the throttle on the exit because it gives you more room to slide.
Now look at this 10-lap average. Every one of the drivers on that list needs a turnaround for their season. Needs a good race here this weekend.
Yeah, and this group is definitely the back half of the finishing order from Talladega. A lot of good cars in this group this week, and
I wouldn't count that guy out.
No, Ryan Blaney. I mean, he's had I would say the fastest car at most of these racetracks. Has had awful luck with a lot of his circumstances and things that have happened. But he's had the fastest car, especially on the long runs, and a lot of that will be good for him this weekend, I believe, because of the fact that he can make his car turn better than everybody else's, and that's really what you need through turns 1 and 2.
8 top 10s in the last 11 Texas races for Blaney, so this would be a good spot for a turnaround.
Look at the DNFs. Unbelievable.
And these are all former champions.
Well, going back to last year's champion, Joey Logano. Look at that average finish of 17th. He won the championship last year. Brad Keselowski, we've been covering him. Poor Brad. I mean, he is, if it can bad happen to him, it's going to happen to him. But Ryan Blaney, he won Darlington for what, about 0.2 of a second, and then it was all taken from him. Passed for the lead, closing laps of that race. What a heartbreaker. Still remember that fresh in my mind.
Good thing about that list is any one of those drivers can win on any weekend.
This guy's got one.
Well, pay attention here, Clint, because this is Josh Berry in the Worth Ford for the Wood Brothers. We are racing today in Fort Worth. And how do we spell Worth this weekend?
W-U-R-T-H.
Perfect. Go to the head of the class.
I saw the logo down there. Missed the email, but saw the logo.
Well, Josh Berry, these guys have been good on the 1.5 mile racetracks, and you know they've been the one in the Ford Penske camp that has been the closest to Ryan Blaney with their speed. I don't think that the other 2 cars on the 1.5 mile with the 2 of Austin Cindric and the 22 of Joey Logano, they haven't had the raw speed that Josh Berry and Ryan Blaney have had.
Now, the one thing that they all have had is good qualifying efforts, and it's led by a large majority of this 21 car. I think that's saved them, obviously, stage points, and then it's kept them in the game towards the end of the race. Mistakes, today's day and age, are really what's making the difference between making or breaking your day on a Sunday.
Yeah, we've talked about those drivers who need a turnaround, and certainly Brad is up at the top of that list. He has 6 straight top 10s here at Texas, was runner-up in this race last year, so they have to have this one circled.
Well, they need speed, and to me, that's just like Clint said. You need to qualify well, and that's usually where the speed shows up. And they have not qualified well. They have not scored stage points. They have not done the things that they'd like to do from a speed standpoint. And a lot of that starts with qualifying well.
And if you look at the past few races, that number 6 has been qualifying behind his teammates. So it's not an organizational issue.
You led me right into the next thought. Buescher, his teammate, and even Preece, right? Both of those guys have been doing a great job of just being steady. We know steady is the name of the game for Chris Buescher and that 17 team. Those guys are just in it every single week, slowly grinding it out. And you look over your shoulder at the end of the race, you're like, top 10 right there, single-digit finish. Those guys are really good at that. We talked to Brad last week, Kevin, and he kind of alluded to that. Obviously, the workload goes on a guy that was a name on the building, right? But I think he's pleased with the progress of RFK, and I think his results will start showing up because of it.
And Brad's got a new crew chief. They've got a new scenario. They've tried to rebuild their team. As you see his teammate Chris Buescher drive right up to the back bumper, and Brad moves over and lets him go by. But
what's he got in that car?
Yeah. But Brad mentioned it. The off week was good timing for them, as they just needed to take a breath, kind of get their arms around everything, reorganize, and start this last 28-week stretch.
That 17 car is one of the fastest cars on the track on the long run as well.
Larry Mack.
Yeah, Mike, you see A.J. Allmendinger here in the 16 car, fastest right now, but he only ran 7 laps. He brought it back to Trent Owens and the crew. He said it was just getting looser and looser in 3 and 4. I talked to a lot of crew chiefs this week, and they said that's a big challenge. You have to have the car neutral, turning good off turn 2, but that makes it too loose down in 3 and 4. You talked about the difference in the ends of the racetrack, Mike. I looked at SMT data this week. 13 miles an hour faster in the middle of 3 and 4 than in 1 and 2.
Wow. Yeah, that is a difference.
You ought to feel it inside the car. You hardly even lift out of the gas, just barely roll out of it, right back to all but wide open. If you're at the front of the pack, you will be wide open. Down there in 1 and 2, lot off, throttle, pipes are cracking and everything else. You get back to it, find the white line, roll back to the throttle in the apex.
And that is exactly the balance that you're looking for. As long as it doesn't progressively get freer and freer and freer, you want it to be edgy through 3 and 4, like Larry is saying, just to be able to make that turn so that you don't have to lift for tight. Because when the cars get out there, they're going to get tighter, and especially off of turn 2.
Where are you going to do the passing?
I think you want to do the passing from the center of 1 and 2 off. You know, you might.
Majority of the passes are done down there.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important to focus on the turn in 1 and 2.
Justin Haley, new sponsor this week, new to the series, Cat's Coffee. And a lot's new over there. Rodney Childers departed that team prior to Talladega. The car went to the track, had trouble getting through inspection. They had a crew swap several weeks ago, but this young driver's a plugger, and he's going to get the most out of this situation. And here he is, 4th on the board.
Yeah, and it puts a lot of pressure on. When you make that change, it puts a lot of pressure on the driver. And you know, when you make a crew chief change like that and change the team around and looking for, you know, that chemistry in an organization, now the last piece of the puzzle that's not changed is the driver. Yeah. So you know that as a driver, he's got to be thinking about, okay, we got to figure out how to make this work.
Especially when you make a bold move like that as early as it was, right? I mean, that was a new crew chief, new driver combination. A couple months down the road, didn't like the call. And to your point, Kevin, like I said, that's a bold decision to make. So if you do make it and pull the trigger on it, you better make sure that it works. That's what loads on you.
How about Zane Smith? Big week last week. Qualified on the pole for Talladega. Got to lead a bunch of laps. A great, I'd say, development race for him.
Those front row cars are extremely fast on a super speedway drafting style racetrack. They have been. Goes back to McDowell's Daytona 500 win.
Yeah, and that was great experience for Zane last week to be able to put himself in position of all those cars and know that you have the fastest car and just got to make all the right moves.
So here is Jesse Love, and this is Beard Motorsports, a team that previously was just running the drafting tracks. Here they are at Texas with this young driver whose career seems to be on a meteoric rise.
Yeah, and Jesse is in that RCR system. You know, young driver, has a lot of potential, done a great job in ARCA, done a great job in Xfinity right off the bat. I mean, he didn't miss a beat going from ARCA to Xfinity, and now seems to be getting groomed to be ready for Cup.
All right, I got to ask, did you and Delana loan him her dad's car number for this weekend?
Well, 62. That was the Linville family number for a long time. Keelan has adopted that 62. So,
you know, RC, I'm going to say it, Kevin. He's got a knack for finding young talent, doesn't he? And found him another one of this Jesse Love. This kid's a real deal. Well, he's an extremely good race car driver. Well,
Richard is extremely competitive. He wants to win.
I meant he found you too.
I know, but I'm just saying that was one thing that I always loved about the controversy and the things that happened at RCR. Richard, he was always right in the middle of it.
He's ready to go, ready to try something.
Wants you to be aggressive, wants you to to be the one pushing the needle, and I believe that Jesse Love is going to do that for him.
And I should have meant it's his Texas Cup debut. It's his second Cup start. Ryan Preece, did you happen to hear Richard Petty's podcast this week talking about things that happen and disqualifications at Talladega? Richard put it in, he had a great way of describing it, and hopefully we can play it for you tomorrow here. But there is Bob Pockrass's explanation. You're only allowed 2 shims, and digging deeper, we understood that first time through inspection, the spoiler angle on Preece's car did not pass. So to get it to pass, they added a shim, maybe not knowing there were already 2 there, maybe. But if you have 3, well, there's Bob's explanation.
And those are easy calls for NASCAR. You know, when they're these cut and dry scenarios where you can have 2 shims, if the wheel falls off, your pit crew gets suspended. If you go below the yellow line before the start finish line, all those simple calls, those are really easy calls for NASCAR. So team's responsibility to know those rules, and they missed it.
Absolutely, it's a black and white rule, and nobody is saying they didn't break the rule or shouldn't have been penalized. But I think a lot of the talk this week has been of the make the punishment fit the crime variety.
And I think, you know, NASCAR has put themselves in this position to be able to make those calls on those penalties. And you know, I think when it comes to the spoiler and the tires and the fuel and some of those big things like that, you know, they don't want there to be any tolerance or anybody even messing with it, because we used to mess with the spoilers a lot.
Sure.
Well, that's what I'm saying. And you say, you know, the crime fits the punishment, or the punishment fits a crime. But, I mean, these are things that have been done before, right? So revisiting them, I think about the truck arm deal in Rockingham. I'm like, man, you didn't think I was going to check that?
Yeah.
That's been 15 years of that, you know? I mean, I just think sometimes these are not very smart. For as genius as these crew chiefs are, some of the things that they revisit, I don't know. That's the games of the tech line, and you have to be able to push it. And if those tech guys are looking the other way, they're going to try it every time. I do like the courage of it.
First Cup Series start at Texas for Riley Herbst, Larry.
Yeah, Mike. Riley Herbst has run 30 laps, and he's pretty happy with that 35 car. But one thing he was fighting a while ago, and you'll hear this all day long at Texas tomorrow, is dirty air. That's going to make strategy fun tomorrow. I watched this race from a year ago. Yeah, you want 4 tires every time, but track position will be king. You'll see fuel only staying out and 2 tires.
Well, we saw last year that's how Chase Elliott won this race. You know, he stayed out long, and the caution came out, and he got the track position and wound up winning the race. Didn't have the fastest car, but when he had the track position, he was fast enough.
I think right now I want track position to closing laps of these races on these intermediate racetracks. You're going to have to strategize past that. We've put such an emphasis on, you know, keeping the track position and everything else. At the end of the day, a gamble and a good restart, if there is one at the end of these races, we've seen that prevail. Case in point, Chase Elliott last year. I think that was the start of what we've seen. Darlington, you know, we've seen a lot of untimely cautions swap the field, and it's kind of just where they run, especially on these intermediate racetracks.
Saw Shane Van Gisbergen making his first Texas Cup start, and here is Cody Ware. Got some stage points at Talladega, and I guess that's the car had quite a bit of difficulty getting through inspection. Took them 3 tries. So they lose, I believe, the car chief and pit selection and so forth.
That's always a hard thing for a race car driver to judge too. All right, so you start hearing that on the way here, right? Man, having trouble getting through tech. Or they call you and say, no, I didn't have any trouble at all. We're already out in the grid. So your emotions are going, was this thing going to be fast because you wasn't pushing it, or were you just that clever that day? It's always it was one or the other, wasn't it, Kev?
Ty Dillon had a good finish lined up at Talladega. He was in the top 10, and we learned later he ran out of fuel on the final lap and cost him a top 10 finish.
Well, these guys have done a really good job, you know, compared to where they started the season. And Colleague in general. You look at Allmendinger on top of the board. There's been a massive improvement with these 2 cars as they've gone through the season, and a lot of that is just processes. And you talk about the inspection piece of it and all the details that go with it. Sometimes you get lost on those little details, and you change one thing and then something else is different when you push it back over there the next time. But the details of this Colleague team are really starting to move the needle.
I'm going to tell you my opinion. I think highly of him. Ty Norris. He moved over there from Trackhouse. He moved from Trackhouse from MWR when they were running good. Before that, he was a DEI when they ran good. that guy gets results.
Yeah.
I don't know how he does it or what. He's got a knack for bringing sponsorship, and we all know money makes cars go fast.
So note Joey's in the AAA car this week, but he's carrying the Hunt Brothers Pizza onboard camera for us at Fox. One thing I'm very impressed at this racetrack is all of the sponsor activation outside the track, surrounding the stadium and the gates here. AAA, for example, has a huge display, almost as big as the U.S. Army's. Looks like they're getting ready to invade Denton out there. They got enough equipment.
I like where you're going there, Mike, and I saw it as soon as I landed and came in here yesterday. The vibe is positive and as good as I've seen it at Texas Motor Speedway in a long time. A lot of signage outside, a lot of new partners. Just walked down through the midway out front. It's packed. Walked through the suites, and they look good. The infield's packed. Good weekend ahead here at Texas Motor Speedway.
That's a good-looking car right there. We've seen 7-Eleven on this property for a long time and done a lot of activation here. Now you see him on the side of Kyle Busch's car. So great to see those colors on the racetrack.
You see that logo on the hood? Who do you think of first off?
Alan Kwiecki.
Slurpee.
I'm thinking Kyle Petty.
Kyle Petty.
Kyle Petty.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Kyle Petty debuted that 7-Eleven just like that on his number 7 car, and NASCAR would not let them use that logo on the door because the 11 bisected the 7, and you can't have anything interfere with the car number. There was a big fight over that, but it all got resolved. They still ran car number 7, and you know they put the logo other places. But yeah, that was my first thought. Of course, it was Pontiac then. That was a long time ago. Kyle Petty charity ride getting kicked off. So Kevin yesterday got inducted into the Texas Motorsports Hall of Fame here at the Speedway. And what were they telling you yesterday about ticket sales?
Yeah, they told me that the ticket sales were as good as they've been in about 15 years. So,
wow.
Yeah, this has always been a massive market for our sponsors, and every time you come to Texas Motor Speedway, it's always just it seems like there's just a little more flair, a little bigger event, little things that just on a larger scale than most places that you go. And people, sponsors and companies love the Texas Motor Speedway, and it's great to hear that the fans are going to show up in big numbers this weekend.
Great. Yep. I think more sponsor displays outside this track than I've seen anywhere this season, and that includes Daytona.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. A.J. Allmendinger fastest, Josh Berry second on the individual lap, both on their second lap around. Allmendinger ran 25 laps. Berry ran 34. So a Chevy and a Ford topped the speed chart. Then Eric Jones Toyota is third. Practice for Group 1 is in the books here in Texas.
But the good thing is the leaf gutter protection Chevy is fast on 1 lap. We know it's got speed, so now we just got to do it for 400 miles.
You showed us that you were shaking just a little bit when you got out of the car. In qualifying here in a little bit, you're going to have to go out there and find even more speed. How do you describe the sensation of trying to go faster around this place?
Well, as you heard me trying to say leaf filter gutter protection, I'm still shaking from it. So just go hold my breath for 1 lap and hope it sticks.
All right, good luck holding your breath. That could be a lot of seconds there, Mike, to hold the breath, but he's going to try.
All right. One incident during Group 1 practice, it was Shane Van Gisbergen, and there is the right front. There's the result. The right rear also got abraded off turn 2.
Yeah, and you can really, we talked about this earlier, that car takes off, and it's so hard. You see him barely just scrape the wall right there. You can't get it back, and you see the tire marks on the wall right here. But really, when you go to a racetrack, just always pay attention to this wall. You see how it goes up, and you see the racetrack get wider. You can tell where the swells in the racetrack are, but you can really see how that banking just dumps out of the corner, and that's why those cars get tight.
Beautiful day in Texas. Wind out of the west, out of the north that is, and it's getting warmer by the minute here as we await Group 2. Which of course is always right, that Formula One driver Daniel Ricciardo is going to race Mexico City in a Cup car. But then I never saw it anywhere else, so you never know.
I'm going with it. Let's do it. I like Daniel. Here we go. It's my turn, Kev. All right, the median. What's the median? That is the average for everybody in that first group. I decided to focus on the Penske cars. 22 car, Joey Logano. Dips are down here pretty fast. This is the thing that separated, and Mike talked about it earlier, separated this practice from ones that we've seen in the past. Came in, made an adjustment, went back out, got some speed out of the car, fallen off. Notice the 21 car. Josh Berry is in blue. He went out, stayed with it the whole entire practice, stayed pretty level, which is good with the median, and below the median. You know that's a fast race car on a long run as well. Like the speed out of the 21 Wood Brothers car. The 12 car, speaking of speed, just like always, we know Ryan Blaney took off extremely fast. Nope, did not like that. Almost crashed. Come in. We're going to make a change here. Go back out extremely fast, falling back off. Guys, what in the heck have you done to my race car? We're going to go back out tomorrow on Sunday. You know it. He'll be down here somewhere. He'll be fast. We just got to finish. We got to get over here, Kevin, with that 12 car. That's where he's got to get.
Yeah, and we know it's going to be fast. They have a good way of figuring out how to make their car turn and make some good speed out of it.
So I feel like I'm confused more and more every time I do that, but hopefully that makes sense to you. This group, I want to see who goes out, who's happy with their race car. We've heard these drivers, they're loose in 3 and 4. That's to try to get through the exit of turn 2. You have to have it neutral to free over there in 1 and 2. You get to 3 and 4, a lot faster corner, and the thing can come out from underneath of you in a hurry. Give a little in one corner to be good in the other. That's the corner. That's the money corner.
It is.
That being 1 and 2. You have to make your passes. The cars are going to get tight in the center, and when they do, you put the pressure on them, get underneath of them, complete the pass down in 3.
And this group, they know the pace. I don't believe. Well, I do believe. I believe that they will have made some adjustments, but in their mind, they know what they need to do from a throttle standpoint. They know the track grip, and now
they've watched all the data, right?
These guys have seen all the data and gone through all their teammate stuff and understand where they are. So they always feel a little more comfortable than the first group. But this racetrack is very temperature sensitive. You know that, Clint, especially for that fast lap. When it starts getting warmer like it is today at a rapid pace, this racetrack slows down quick.
All right, I'm building my fantasy team, and I want this car on it. William Byron has finished top 3 in 3 of the last 4 Texas races, including a win, and he's been in the top 10 in 10 of the last 12 races on 1.5-mile tracks. That, to me, that's a no-brainer.
He's always a no-brainer if you're a betting man. I think he's just always there quietly. Just gets the job done. Don't really hear much out of him. You look over your shoulder at the end of the race and you're like, somebody better pay attention to the 24 car. He's fixing to win.
Yeah, and this where he cycled out in practice is going to get an interesting read because of being in traffic, but he definitely knows how to show up at the end of these races, and when he's not winning, he's getting top 5s, and his average finish there at 6.25.
That's sporty.
That shows you the consistency that this race team has on these 1.5-mile racetracks.
I love the looks of this race car, all of them. I saw the dragster, I saw the sprint car. They've all been gold this week. 100th anniversary of Napa. Good looking race cars all across the board.
Wasn't that Ron Cap's car on social media? Yeah,
yes.
Looked great. And the sprint car as well. Yep.
Sweetie over there. They're racing across on the backstretch. Brad Sweet, he'll be over there giving them hell.
All right, let me clean this up. Kyle Larson won a race last week at Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Well, when I was calling sprint car races, Jack Speedway was in Florida. Now they race at Jacksonville, Illinois. I did not know that.
It's all right, Mike. You know a lot of other things.
Well, I was going to say the good thing for you, Mike, is you're not wrong very much, and sitting next to us, we're always wrong. So
stop it.
We're just going to follow your lead.
Yeah,
sounds
we're
good.
Go with it.
I was going to say, just correct me, okay?
Hey, speaking of not wrong, how about Kyle Larson, second at Talladega? There it is right there. Finally got him a top 5. Unbelievable. I thought he was going to win there for a minute. I think he did. May have if he would have went for it. Those 3 Hendrick cars lined up behind them 2 Fords, and they just followed him around there. Old Clint had to call Jeff on Monday and ask him what happened there. He got pretty quiet.
Yeah, I kept waiting that last lap for one of those cars to break out, but if he had, none of his Chevy stablemates could get up to the high side with him, so It would have been advanced to the rear.
I thought Byron off of 3, you know, he had some momentum and he had Bowman behind him for a pusher, and he looked like he was going to take it, and he kind of stalled out right as he got to the rear bumper and just thought better of it. Never formulated another opportunity there. You could see him backing it up, trying to form that gap and get a run on him, but those first 2 cars just did a great job of managing that. Austin Cindric, he's always there. You know, you kind of forget about him on those racetracks, but you shouldn't, because he's always right there up front when the time's right.
Carson Hocevar, 10th in this race last year.
Yeah, well, he's fast today. You see him up on top of the board, and we've seen this at a number of different racetracks that they've been able to make good speed. So both of these Spire cars are running fast today. Michael McDowell in 5th, the 3rd one. So these cars definitely have speed in them. Now they just got to figure out how to do the rest of it for the whole day. They've got the speed part figured out.
Well, when the competition level in this Cup Series, there's so many layers to getting that figured out and getting to the finish line. Whether it's pit crews, it's the strategy of the race, it's a race falling your way, the track position, qualifying. There's so many things other than just unloading with that sheer takeoff speed where you can get a qualifying lap in. Getting that thing to the goal line is very, very difficult, especially consistently with the depth of the organizations we have in NASCAR.
Yeah, you see Michael McDowell here. Every year we come here, he's definitely on the highlight reel, Clint.
I saw it.
That wreck that he had in qualifying that year was just absolutely massive.
No thanks.
That's in qualifying, for those of you who have not seen this accident, but went in there, got loose, overcorrected, and that car shot to the right, and just an absolutely massive wreck.
And he walked away.
I was one of the next cars to go out. I mean, I was already dialed in.
Did you qualify good?
No, it slowed me down more than I was ready, more than I was going to do on my own. Yeah, I think I started 50th that day.
Well, McDowell needs a turnaround on the 1.5-mile tracks. Only one top 10 finish in his last 20 1.5-mile track starts.
Yeah, and another guy that's on a new team, new organization. But this guy right here, Austin Cindric, he put it all together last week. Been in the mix, like you were talking, Clint. He's been in the mix at those speedways and even other places so much, and just not able to finish the deal. Last week they finished the deal. I thought Regan Smith was not going to be able to give his interview afterwards. He punched him in the chest like right. I'd never seen somebody be punched before in an interview. But
well, I think it's Penske. Watch this.
Picked him up. He was Austin. I love the emotion that Austin showed last week. Shows you how much these guys care about what they do.
So much of the Penske organization is swallowed up.
Here we go.
Boom! Boom!
How about that?
By Logano and Blaney.
Oh,
right?
Look at Regan. He's backpedaling. Oh, that hurt. Now I got to interview him.
There he is.
Guys, I got home and I had a bruise on my shoulder. My wife asked me, where did you get a bruise from? And I said, did you not watch Victory Lane of the race? She said, I saw that. You bruised that easily. I was sore all week. And Kevin, yes, the old age that you pointed out on the broadcast, that may have been a factor. But I do want to remind you, though, you are older than me, so keep that in mind.
It wasn't your fault, though, Regan. He's got, like, what's he have? Probably 1.5 foot more reach than you. That's not fair.
Especially when you're not ready to be punched like that. Yes, I am older, Regan, but I feel like I might be tougher than you.
Yeah, and there was no way, to Clint's point about getting away from that reach, there was no way I was getting away from him. I saw the look in his eye when he got out of the car. He was so excited, and I knew he was on his way. I'm like, oh boy, this might get big in a moment.
Well,
that was fun.
Here's the interesting stat. All right, you've got Joey Logano on that team. You've got Ryan Blaney, and you've got Austin Cindric. Oh boy, that was a hard hit. You could be forgiven for thinking that Cindric is the third driver on that 3-car team.
That's where I was going.
However, in 3 of the last 4 years, who's got the first win for Team Penske? Austin Cindric, first win of the season.
Well, and then you add the Wood brothers to that equation with the Josh Berry win. I mean, that's what I was going with that earlier, is Blaney. So much of the Penske organization and the focus for us and our jobs is on Logano and Blaney, but those other two, they're all together the reason that they have the success that they have.
Look at this stat right here. I mean, you probably think the same thing of Alex Bowman, right? Like, you would probably put him 4th in line at Hendrick, but he has the results at a lot of these racetracks to think otherwise. And You know, he's not as vocal and he's not as flashy as his other 3 teammates, but 7 straight top 10 finishes on mile-and-a-half tracks.
Part of the equation for sure.
All 4 of the Hendrick cars are in Group 2, and again, the group is set by the metric, last race finish and point standings. Larry Mack.
Yeah, Mike, Russ Chastain in that 1 car, 29th quickest. He only ran 6 laps. He brought it back to Phil Surgeon, loose in both ends, but Kevin and Clint was talking about it. Through the bumps in 3 and 4, it was on those ride limiters, those stops, internal stops in the shocks, really hard. But the challenge is, like Kevin said, you've got to get it down on those or you will not be very efficient down in 1 and 2. Again, looking at data this week, 3 and 4, we talked about the miles per hour difference in mid-corner. You get almost 500 pounds more load on the left rear in 3 and 4 than 1 and 2 because of the grip, the loads, and the speed.
Well, so true. And that balance this is definitely one of the toughest racetracks to get those limiters set correctly. You want it to be able to touch those limiters or just barely not touch them, whatever you're comfortable with from a driver standpoint, to be able to live with, because it's not going to touch them in turns 1 and 2. And that's really where you want the car to be the lowest as possible to be able to make that car get through the center of the corner.
Softer left side tire here this year. We are practicing faster than last year's pole speed. As a result,
which means they should be.
How about?
They should be a fair amount faster when they put them in qualifying trim.
About Noah Gregson in this Rush Truck Center's car. Right up at the top of the board. His long run speed's pretty sporty too. This would be a big weekend for them. Home Rush. Rusty's here. Uncle Rusty's here.
All right, how many people is he bringing this week?
I think 100.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good.
Saw him as soon as I ran into the hotel, and he was set on point, ready to go. Put me in, coach.
Well, it's fun to see people that love racing as much as these guys do, and obviously they supported you and Tony through the years, but Rush Truck Centers has done a great job of being on these cars for a number of years, and when you have that activation and that support, you feel that energy from a driver's standpoint. You know when there's 100 and some people sitting up in that suite.
Darn right. He'll put the pressure on you. Peterbilt's a big part of their equation at Rush. It's right down the road here in Denton.
I'd love to see one of his drivers get Rusty to victory lane.
You know,
it'd be so cool.
Never did with Rush on there, and he reminds me of it every single
You know how much money I spent? We never won.
All right. Tyler Reddick is the quickest Toyota in this practice. Now, not only is that the Jumpman scheme, but they did something really cool this week without her knowledge, and it's never good to do things without her knowledge. But they put Tyler's wife's name on the car and on the taillight panel and up above the driver door. It was pretty emotional. You know, the
That's
presentation cool. When she saw it for the first time. I think it's up there above the C-pillar. Going a little too fast to see it here, but
I wouldn't mind telling her about that. Yeah, that's a good surprise. I thought you were talking about like the boat or the new truck or the Harley Davidson or something like that. One of those purchases that you didn't tell her about.
Well, maybe they might want to leave that name on there because that car is fast, Clint.
Long run speed really good as well. This is a Tyler Reddick type racetrack. Let it hang out. Been talking about loose in 3 and 4. That guy can hold on to a loose race car. He can move around. This guy can get it done too.
Yeah, you see Denny Hamlin, his last win here was March of 2019, but we've documented Denny well, and he's went on that hot streak and won a couple races, and
he fixed one of those problems at Martinsville this year. Earlier in the season, it had been a long time before he'd won a race, and we let him know about it. How did he respond to that?
Win.
Fixed it.
He has 3 wins here, but the last one of those came in 2019.
Speaking of fixed it, we have fixed this 54 car Ty Gibbs. Documented it. We were all over it last week talking about it, but not a good start to the season. The last 3-4 races here have been much better. A lot of improvement out of Ty Gibbs and company.
Yeah, and he went to the high limit race this week. He's decided to be a sprint car driver and wound up making the field.
Well, he flipped last time he tried that in Vegas.
Well, he did better this time.
Better this week.
Yeah.
He did
But
better
there you see the first 6 races, and the last 4 have been
Look at this.
been solid, and that's what
Yes,
you got to have
sir.
that consistency.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I did ask how to say make sure that we were saying the sponsor name. It's
Good.
Saya.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll do that.
You see this right here, guys? We are on the move.
Yeah, and every one of those drivers in red wants or needs to be on the move, trying to displace somebody above them, because 16 is the cutoff.
Look at that
for the
bubble
playoffs.
picture, though. 20 to the good on Busher to the top of the field, only 25 points. That could be corrected tomorrow. 25 points isn't a lot, especially when you have the momentum and the backing that Ty Gibbs has with that guy right there, his grandfather.
Well, and Joe Gibbs Racing has a lot of resources, and when you look at Christopher Bell and Denny Hamlin, you have a lot of things to lean on. And you talk about Joe Gibbs, I mean, there is just a wealth of knowledge and how to guide people. And we talk so much about this team changing or that team changes. This is all about the people and the structure and the organization and how you guide those people. And Chase Briscoe in that same boat, right? Like new team, new organization, nothing feels the same. Needs a little bit of time to get together, and we've seen both of them, Ty and Chase, have moments of really good success. So now it's just about finding that consistency.
But the difference with Joe Gibbs Racing is, yes, they've got a lot of Toyota money behind them, and they've got really good sponsors. But Joe Gibbs doesn't have the foundation that some of the other super team owners do, with a whole lot of industrial companies or 100+ car dealerships or things like that are able to support the racing operation. You know, Joe Gibbs is all in on racing, and that's it. That's what he does full time is his race team.
And I like that. You know, people, we have a lot of great team owners, and a lot of them have you know, those businesses, but so many of them just, they love to race. But when you can make especially a family business out of racing teams and the things that you have, you get to wear rings like that, you're having some success.
Now, was that a Cup championship ring, or was that a Super Bowl championship ring?
He probably just rotates them.
Okay.
I would.
He's got enough of them.
Yeah,
right?
you just rotate those Super Bowl and those championship rings, and you just put them on when you go somewhere that I guess you feel like you had the most success. And
there you go. Ricky Stenhouse in the lightest, brightest car in the field. There's his last 3 races. He's got a best finish of 9th here in 20 starts.
Yeah, and we've seen that Sunny D brand on those cars a lot. I like the colors, Clint, because for a blind guy,
I know where it's at.
Yeah, I can find that car anywhere on the racetrack.
Can't find your car, but you can find his.
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying.
That felt good. I don't even know why. I don't know. It's just too easy. Sorry, bud. Running along with Bubba Wallace.
Last week at Talladega, all right, we were focused on the battle for the win, as we should be, but on that last lap, he was 20th at the white flag, and he wound up where, 11th at the checkered flag, 10th or 11th?
Yeah, 10th.
Yeah. Well, 10th after inspection,
well,
10th at the checker.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. Heck of a last lap. A lot happened, right?
Well, and it all started when Ty Dillon, who was in the top 10, suddenly the throttle burped. He was out of gas, had to pull up to the top. That left a big opening, and along came Bubba.
Well,
nice
we expect
job.
even though you know, he had a great finish last week, we expect him to be in contention this week. He was in contention to win this race last year. Whatever reason, these cars, he and Tyler Reddick, they've adapted really well to this track, and we expect both of those cars to be in contention tomorrow.
I think the simulator adds up to it, right? I mean, all the preparation that goes into these racetracks, that's what you attribute it to, is going back and all right, where did our speed come from? Well, was it one team or was it the organization? When it's the organization, the old computer sims dialed in, baby.
And you'll see that. Yeah, you'll see that. They are good laps, and that last lap was a 29.14, so he's hauling the mail right now. I've seen him. Has he come in and out of the pits, Clint? You've got the graph over there, but you know, I think to your point, Clint, those simulators, there's a lot of times that the teams will figure out a one place better than the other, that goes right from the simulator to the racetrack, that is able to adapt really well to the on-track performance of the car and relates really well. So some tracks not so much, and you learn that process as you go through the simulator and through the years. You know which tracks you need to say, hey, let's take that exact setup, and you learn which tracks you're like, I don't think that this is right or that is right. You adjust to that setup. So it's a very interesting process.
Now the front row cars here are a little off and on. You see Noah Gragson third on the board, where Todd Gilliland and Zane Smith are 27th and 28th respectively in this practice. But Todd's finished 16th or better in 3 of the last 4 races. Kyle Larson back out, and we listened in.
The best car, which is Reddick. We give up a little bit both ends. When he lands in the banking at 3 and 4, he goes wide open and then comes back out of it again one more time, late exit. We're losing a little bit of throttle time there. 1 and 2 hasn't been bad. He gets us by about a half a tenth at 1 and 2.
Yeah, so what happens, that entrance into turn 3 is really flat. So you have 2 choices. You either lift early before the banking starts, but a lot of times in this car you want to drive it into the banking. But you can have 2 problems there. Sometimes if you drive it into the banking, the front end doesn't want to turn, so you have to lift earlier. So you definitely have some different lifting strategies as to where you let off in order to get the front end set.
You know, I can't believe I'm saying this, and will correct me when we go off the air, but I don't know that I agree with Cliff Daniels. This is the first time I've ever had this thought process. I know how dangerous this is, but I don't know that old Reddick's the fastest car. I think it's a Toyota, but I think the fastest car is Ty Gibbs, on a long run especially.
And that could have been recorded very early in the session when Reddick was at the top of the list of contenders.
It's just interesting watching this graph, and we'll clean this up again after this one, just like we did in the first group. But these long runs and long run speed, some of that speed is broken up when a car pits. If he doesn't like it, like prime example, Kyle Larson right here, Cliff Daniels came in, made an adjustment. That is going to hurt the speed as far as you see it on paper. But what that driver feels, the balance that he has, those comments that Cliff told him to work on inside the race car can only be fixed and worked on if you come in and do so.
Yeah, and I saw Kyle the last lap. He moved up like a lane to see if there was anything outside of that. Definitely wasn't there yet.
And that's what I like about a driver like Kyle Larson. He's going to go give you that sensation, and that Cliff Daniels to be able to go back and, hey, saw that, what'd that feel like when you moved up there? Just putting that in the memory bank, move around a little bit, figure out where you need to be, because the bottom of the racetrack's where everybody's going to be. Eventually you got to figure out how to pass somebody.
And what happens a lot of times, the car will start to get tight when you miss that line. When it's on the bottom of the racetrack, the car will start to get tight. That's when people start moving around to try to get that front end to turn, make that arc a little bit rounder through the corner in 1 and 2, and that's when that second lane starts to get burned in, when guys start struggling on the bottom, and the guys that are really good can wrap that line in 1 and 2. That was always where I would try to make my passes, was wrapping that line through 1 and 2, because those guys are off of the line on the exit of 2.
Austin Dillon has 8 top 15s in the last 10 races here, including a win for Richard Childress Racing. Let's check with Larry.
Yeah, Mike, you see Carson Hocevar in that 77 car, fastest. He's run a combined total of 29 laps. Not bad on some of the long run stuff. But what he told Luke Lambert, I needed to rotate just a little better through the middle of the corner in that 20 lap run. But the razor blade you walk on here is that means you need the front tires to grip. You don't want to unhook the rear tires at the speed you're running, and that can become quite the challenge. Is not give up grip in the rear, just make those front tires grip better.
Yeah, and this was always a place where I always liked that rear bar hooked up and tried to make it as turny as possible in practice with that. The rear bar will give it just that sensation through the center of the corner that makes it want to rotate on its own. It can be a little bit uncomfortable in practice, but this was always a place where I wanted that rotation naturally with the race car, if you could stand it, just to be able to get it to rotate without depending on the front tires.
It's only going to get worse tomorrow
right.
in traffic.
All right, look. Oh, sorry. We're back to Hocevar there. That Cole Custer car, you look at that car, reminds you of who? Right there.
Well, it reminds me of Schrader. It's
yes.
modified.
No, Kenny Schrader for Junie Donlevy. ran the Red Baron pizza car on that number 90 for a couple of years. Man,
he
this
sent
is
me a picture of
school,
us racing at Lakeside in our modifieds together, and he was in the red Baron car. The red Baron car.
Are you sure it was us?
What are you talking about? No, I said Iowa.
Let me tell you something about this one night, Mike. My friend, Clint Boyer, I decided that I wanted to race dirt cars. And he says, hey, look, I don't feel like racing that. Will you go down and drive that dirt car? That was the dumbest mistake that I've ever made in my dirt racing career. I was awful at it. I went down there, spun out, made a complete fool out of myself.
I thought it was fantastic.
Of course.
Yeah, look, right there. Jack Daniels and Red Baron.
That's a combination.
What a fun guy he is. So he was up at Kyle Petty's charity ride, the annual event. See, they're taking off, started up in Michigan this year. Always a lot of fun to follow them. Does a great job raising awareness for the Victory Junction Game Camp.
Absolutely. Great event. If it's coming by you, go out and see him. Go out and wave him on.
I'm going to go to the other side of that, though. Not necessarily great out of Chase Elliott and this 9 car so far. On the speed chart, maybe we're working on long run speed. Never can't count him out. By the way, won this race a year ago.
But that's his last win.
Well,
hasn't won since.
I was trying to
be nice about it. I know.
No,
and I chopped
a good
right off there,
racetrack for him. I think he can get the job done, and I like the focus factor on this team. You know, if they don't have the upfront speed, the takeoff speed, you really don't have to worry about that. That's going to come up here in just a minute.
They will grind it out, that's for sure.
All right, Carson Hocevar wins practice over Allmendinger, Gregson, Larson, and McDowell. 4 Chevys and 1 Ford in the top 5. Little Ricky Bobby flag right there. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, coverage continues on Prime Video with qualifying getting underway shortly.
Like we had a pretty good practice session there with the rush truck setters number 4. This team, we ran good here last year with the number 10 car, and then come back here just improving on stuff. Drew Blake and Sturfer, the rest of the guys have been doing a great job, but this is my main guy. It's a Rusty Rush here. We got Rush on board this weekend, and we're racing for him and Jenny this weekend. So overall, I felt like we learned a lot that practice session. Hopefully we just got to qualify good. It's hard to pass here, so having track position is key, and we'll see here in a little bit.
Good to see you guys down here smiling. Rusty down here with you. The cowboy hats, I like all of it going on over here, Larry.
Regan, I don't have a cowboy hat, but I do have William Byron. William, 31 laps, 15th quickest. What do you think about this qualifying run coming up?
Yeah, I felt good about our car, honestly. We just started in heavy traffic, so just with the way that everyone kind of blends in there. But, yeah, I thought my balance was pretty good. I ran for a while. We made one small adjustment just to see what we could do differently there to try to get through 1 and 2 and kind of get the 2 ends a little bit closer. So qualifying is just going to take a lot of commitment. You're going to have to be fast in 1 and 2, and that's really, like, off of 2, that's really going to make your lap, because most guys I think are going to be wide open in 3 and 4. So it's just going to be that kind of balance, but we'll see. Yeah, our Raptor Chevy I think is good. Just qualifying, is really important here. It's tough to pass for the lead, so you got to be up front.
Well, Mike, not sure about this qualifying run, but you talked about his numbers on 1.5 mile tracks. Remember, roughly 2 years ago, the 300th win for Hendrick Motorsports here by William Byron.
Oh, that's true. He's had a lot of success and consistency here. Well, in practice, it was mostly all Chevrolet. We'll see how they fare against the Fords and Toyotas in qualifying. Coming up shortly.
Group. The one that sticks out to me, what is this right here? That's the 5 car. Took off with a lot of speed that we know he always has right here. Did not like his race car, trending the wrong way, getting up close to that median. That's the mid-pack jack. We don't like that with a 5 car. Came back out, found a lot of speed. Kevin, you talked about it. Went to the top of the racetrack, tried something there, dipped back down into here. Where are we at with the 11 car? Ran the most laps. Look at here, clear out to 45, 46 laps. right on the median line. Steady Eddie, that's the 11 that we know. The 2 car, Cindric, last week's winner. Look at the speed. You think old momentum doesn't mean anything? A lot of speed early, kind of starts to fall off. This is where I want to talk about the 54, talked about Ty Gibbs. Look from right here on. Starting to trend up here, and then all of a sudden levels off and dips way down here. Median up here, 5 car falling off. A lot of speed unknowns. The 11 car Steady Eddie. 54 is your guy for right now. Does that make sense?
Well, it looked like Keelan's math class, but
there's a lot of equations there.
Same. It was the exact same thing. I don't know. I don't know what any of it means. But you said 54 fast. I know what that means.
Thank God.
Kyle Busch is now 40 years old.
Can you believe that?
Happened this week. I remember when NASCAR wouldn't let him run a cup race because he wasn't old enough. He was capable enough. He wasn't old enough. But wow, what a great career it has been. And I'll add, so far, this has still got a ways to go. He's in a renewal year, and
well, that makes me feel old, Clint.
Do you ever notice that the N is small on 11?
Lowercase.
Lowercase.
Yes. Yeah.
You did notice that?
I did.
Why is it?
There's a story there.
There is? Do you know that one?
As soon as Russell looks it up, I'll be able to tell it to you.
Yeah.
But no, there's a reason. There was, when they developed that logo, there was something about it looking, you know, I don't know if it was like unfriendly or all in your face or something, and somebody suggested, well, let's make that lowercase and soften the end of that line. That's my recollection. But all right, let's qualify. Here is the 66, and Chad Fincham is at the wheel of the Hart HVAC and electric Ford. They're based in Weatherford, Texas, and he's making his first start of 2025. He has one prior Texas start where he started 40th and finished 35th.
Just get me a solid lap in. Be careful down here in 1 and 2.
Really easy to overdrive the corner right here, and the biggest thing you don't want to do in turns 1 and 2, you're walking on that fence. How far to drive it in, how much more speed can I carry in the corner and still hit the bottom. You gotta hit the bottom of the racetrack to be buried in the throttle on the exit of turn 2 to make speed, because you're gonna be wide open through 3 and 4.
Now this is a little bit of a throwback, you know, back when we had the days of the struggling independents, the drivers without major sponsorship or big teams, and every market we went to, they would have local sponsors on the car to try to help build those businesses. 29.88 for Fincham, and that picks up half a second over what he practiced. Brad Keselowski, a series best 6 straight top 10s here, including second last year. He has 2 poles here. This is the Consumer Cellular Ford.
We need a good lap right here. Need to be up front with a 6 car.
And I don't think you'll get it going out this early in qualifying, Clint. That's the problem with when you finish bad and you have the way that they do these practice sessions. It snowballs.
The algorithms.
And
you can't get out of the hole.
And you know, Brad probably has a decent car, but going out this early, the rubber's not going to be cleaned off the racetrack. It's going to be really, really difficult to get a fast lap.
Good point.
28.63, and that is about half a tenth faster than he practiced. Cody Ware making his 3rd Texas start. He's in the Arby's Ford for Rick Ware Racing.
Yeah, and we'll see it at the end of this lap with Cody Ware, but you'll see why the racetrack gets cleaned up. You can see when Brad Keselowski, as you see Cody go up the racetrack right there, when they shut these cars off and slow down, they're not laying rubber anymore. And that's when it starts to pick that rubber up off the racetrack, when they slow down, and they'll pick that rubber up through turns 1 and 2. And that's why this racetrack keeps getting faster and faster.
He was 29.20 in practice. Looks like he's going to better that with this lap. And does. 28.94 for Cody Ware. Jesse Love making his 2nd Cup start. Finished 31st at Bristol this year in his debut. He has only one Texas Xfinity start where he qualified on pole and finished 9th. This is the C4 Ultimate Energy Chevrolet.
And what a difficult situation for Jesse Love. He's learning on the fly. And with these Cup cars, they're not like those Xfinity cars where you have to drive them harder, further in the corner. There's a much different strategy to what you do in these Cup cars when it comes to qualifying.
Well, there's a much different racetrack as well. When we started practice, ladies and gentlemen, it was 67 degrees track temp. Now it is 95. Massive difference in grip level for these drivers trying to figure out the grip level they have to maximize a lap.
And a great pickup, half a second for Jesse Love over practice. Here is Ryan Preece, who crossed the line second in Talladega, had that finish taken away and DQ'd. This is the Kroger Sara Lee Craft Singles Ford. He has 3 top 10s on mile and a half, all in the last 3 races.
And you see him put his head back right there and just take a breath, because you know you're going to have to hold your breath again as you go through 3 and 4.
Listen to that throttle.
Buried.
Never cracked.
Preece was 28.96 in practice, 28.69, 0.3 better in that RFK Ford. Joey Logano driving the AAA Insurance Ford, a Texas winner in 2014. He's been on the outside of the front row here 4 times. Logano practiced at 28.94.
Off of turn 2, really good. You heard it in the throttle, just rolled right out of it and rolled right back to it.
Green light for Logano.
And that carries all the way around. That's your momentum when you're wide open through turns 3 and 4. That
keep
speed
building
off of the exit of turn 2 is what carries you all the way around the racetrack.
28.54. That's a pickup of 0.4 from practice.
And all these guys are buried in the beginning of this qualifying session, unfortunately.
That was a good pickup for him for as early as he went. Pretty darn good lap. I think that should put them up there, at least dig them out of the hole a little bit.
And that's all you're looking for. How do I get out of this hole? How do, you know, Talladega is different, right? You have scenarios where, as you see SVG really miss right there in the middle of turns 1 and 2, cost him a lot of time.
And it will the rest of the lap.
It's his first Texas Cup start. Finished 18th in the Xfinity Series here last year. This is the Safety Culture Chevrolet.
William Byron talked about it in his interview. All the speed here is from the center of 1 and 2 to the exit of 2, because the rest of the way you're wide open. All the momentum carried off of 2.
He picks up a 10th from where he practiced. Remember, he got into the wall off turn 2 in the practice session. John Hunter Nemechek in the Dollar Tree Toyota has 4 Texas Cup starts with a best of 24th in 2020. 2 Xfinity wins here and a truck win.
Yeah, he's run well here. Going back to your track temperature, Clint, as you see a good run for John Hunter down the back straightaway, going green right now.
He and his teammate Eric Jones both practiced in the top 20.
Yeah, they unloaded fast race cars.
Close. 28.55, misses the top spot by 1/100th of a second, picks up a 10th from where he practiced.
Surprised me though, because he came off a 2 in the green and it should have carried on all the way through, and it didn't necessarily do that.
To me, that says might have a little more drag than compared to the Ford, unless because he didn't really have a mistake. It just seems like he might have.
Well, there's really only 2 things it can be.
Power or drag.
Yeah. Ryan Blaney in the Menards Knauf Ford. Was the pole sitter here in 2018.
Did you see that? He was so close to the wall. Stayed with it though, never cracked out of the throttle.
28.71 in practice. He's going to better that by about 0.2. Top of the board, 28.51 for Ryan Blaney. John Hunter Nemechek got a little too close.
Meet the IHOP House Faves value menu. Everything's just $6. Like the Breakfast Faves combo. $6. French toast breakfast, $6. $6 for all this and all that. That's a lot of breakfast for $6. Weekdays at IHOP.
Coofandi Menswear. From your first step into the classroom, to your stride down the aisle, to your little one's first steps, to every boardroom breakthrough. Life is a journey of seasons. Coofandi is the wardrobe that grows with you. Tailored for every milestone, timeless for every season. Coofandi, dress the journey.
Let's go see what NASCAR on Prime's all about. Let's do this. Starting off big, the Coke 600.
Green flag.
Woo-hoo! Nashville. Michigan? Hell yeah. And Mexico City. Mexico City?
Someone say road course?
Yeah. Finally, Pocono. Stream all 5 Cup Series races. NASCAR, it's on Prime. Come on.
Welcome back to NASCAR on Prime from Texas Motor Speedway. 9 drivers have qualified, with Ryan Blaney fastest so far. Regan Smith.
Well, Mike Chase Elliott back to the site of his most recent win last year at Texas Motor Speedway here. Good memories here. I want to ask you, though, qualifying coming up, the track has been changing. We feel the temperature is getting hotter. How much of a challenge is it from the driver's seat to adjust to where you think the grip level is going to be?
Well, we just got done practicing 5-10 minutes ago, so I don't necessarily think it's going to change a ton in that amount of time. And looking at the lap time, it's pretty similar, right? You know, it wasn't a huge pickup from like Ryan and the 22 there. So at least from a couple of the guys that I saw go. So kind of interesting. I'm sure it'll get faster as we go. It seems like it always does for the guys in the second round. So we'll, yeah, see if we can't get our Napa 100 Chevy a good starting spot for tomorrow.
Definitely a beautiful race car out there. Mike, in person, looks even better than on camera.
A lot of gold there. Yep, very good. Chris Buescher in the 5th third bank Ford. Best Texas start of second here a year ago fall.
Did a great job through turns 1 and 2. A lot of green there, Clint.
Big time.
28.69 in practice. He's going to better that by a lot.
Yes, sir. Look at this.
And we talked about this car. You covered the fact that he had a really good car in race pace. It was 28.30.
Wow, he picks up 4/10.
It's a good
goes
lap
to the
right
top.
there. 28.30.
Well, and that changes the game for everybody on pit road. Now you got to change what you thought after the cars that went before him. Now you've got to look at that data from the 17 car to say, okay, did he drive it in further? Did he use less brake? How did he get to the green? How much throttle did he use off of turn 2? What did he do to go faster? And now everybody that's still in line sees that.
My answer is yes on all of those questions.
Christopher Bell in the Interstate Batteries Toyota started a Texas best 3rd last year. He has top 4 finishes in half of his last 6 starts here.
The business is picking up. I mean, he isn't far off of him.
28.35. That's also 4/10 better than his best practice lap.
And that's exactly why when we talked about that 6 car of Keselowski going that early, that's why I was so quick to say, man, that's a better lap from practice, but it's going to be a long ways back.
And remember, that's all dictated off of the algorithms, right? Your point, all the things that go into that. Just make it a challenge each and every week, unless you get a big finish to get yourself out of that hole. You're into the first, stage of the qualifying. You're going out early on bad track conditions. It's just very, very difficult to get yourself out of that.
Justin Haley, whose best Texas finish is 3rd. Cat's Coffee, based in Houston, is on his Chevrolet. Nice lap of 28.33. He picks up 3/10, trying to get his first top 25 start at Texas.
30s it is, huh?
Rookie Riley Herbst is on track, making his first Texas Cup start. He has a best finish of 5th in 8 Xfinity starts here.
He was a little bit slower back to the throttle in the center of the corner. It's going to hurt him on exit.
Yeah, you see that speed, just like we're talking. The speed of the lap is all dictated from the center of the corner to the exit of turn 2.
29 flat in qualifying. This is the Beat Box Toyota. That is Party Punch.
I like that. I like covering, it's easy for us. because you just focus on the exit of turn 2. Very challenging and a lot more pressure on a driver because you know how important that is.
All right, Herbst picked up half a second from practice. Good lap. Here is Ty Dillon. 12 Texas starts with one in the top 10 in the Grizzly Chevrolet. For Colleague Racing.
And let's not forget all the other details. When you have a lap that has a corner that is wide open and you know it's going to be wide open getting it to the green, off of pit road, through the gears, all that stuff is still important, just like we talked at Talladega. So to make this speed, and by the time this is all said and done, those times are going to be really close. And Ty Dillon slots in at 5th quick there, 28.475.
Yeah, and he picks up 6/10 from practice. Josh Berry was 6th fastest in practice, 28.44 with the Worth Ford. He's making his 2nd Texas Cup start.
Came to the green faster than him. Let's see what he's got down here in 1 and 2. Rolled to center, good. Trending high on the exit though. Stayed with it, turned back down the hill. Look at this.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was just talking about. His get up to speed and come into the green, that carried into turn 1, allowed him to lift a little bit sooner, but that mile per hour stayed right with it off of turn 2, and you saw him use the whole racetrack and go P1. Now we're in the 20s.
Good job, driver.
And
28, 23, P1 right.
2/10 pickup from practice. Kyle Busch celebrating his birthday this week in the 711 Chevrolet. Okay, Clint, why is the N in 11 in lowercase?
Well, it was the company lore. The wife of John P. Thompson Sr., the company's president in the 1960s, suggested the change to make the logo appear more graceful. The all uppercase 11 was initially seen as too harsh, so we softened it up a little bit. That is the note that I got.
And now you know.
I love a 711 though. Love the colors of that race car.
Kyle Busch, 4 wins and a pole at Texas, 28.54 for Kyle, and that is a pickup of 4.5/10.
Drank a lot of Slurpees in my day, Clint.
Oh, buddy.
Eric Jones in the Advent Health Toyota making his 300th Cup start this weekend. He was 9th in practice with a 28.54.
Oh, I heard him crack out of the gas once, and then the second time's the one I'm worried about. Exited that turn 2 low, but I think he gave up the speed in the center of the corner.
Well, you see those cars crisscross. You saw him turn in a little bit before Josh Berry, and then they crossed again on the exit of the corner, and that's why you heard that lift.
Jones has 3 top 5s and 7 top 10s here. Third, 28.33. A good pickup of more than 2/10.
Good job, Eric. Good lap.
A.J. Allmendinger, the Leaf Filter gutter protection Chevy for Colleague. 3 top 10 starts here, including 6th last year. He was 2nd fastest in practice with a 28.38.
I like that entry by Allmendinger. You see him hold that car out a little bit wider, allows him to get a better angle on the exit of the corner.
He was also disciplined in not getting in too hard, didn't overdrive the corner.
And he did the opposite down here, turned in a little bit sooner than the 21 car, but still a great lap from this 16 car.
Another time.
28.27. He picks up a 10th. And he is 2nd. Josh Berry
car.
Another time.
28.27. He picks up a 10th. And
Still a great lap from this 16 car.
Another time.
28.27. He picks up a 10th and he is 2nd. Josh Berry
car.
Another time.
28.27. He picks up a 10th. And
It's not a table for having this.
I might meet Ross Chastain at Tootsie's after this.
17th, 28.65. Picks up 2/10.
Well, it's like you said, Mike, or Larry said earlier. I mean, you're going to have to pick up 4 or 5 tenths in order to contend for this pole from what you practiced.
Which is hard to do.
Oh, so hard.
Commitment level is extremely high.
Well, Denny Hamlin was 16th in practice at 28.64 in his Progressive Insurance Toyota.
Gave up a little bit getting into the corner, went back to the gas and got a little bit closer to him, but going to be a tall order to run him down.
3 Texas wins for Hamlin and 2 outside front row starts. See if he can put 2 Toyotas on the front row right here. No. Third, 28.24. And as you said, Kevin, he picked up exactly 4/10 of a second.
Yeah, and the interesting part about that 54 car compared to all the rest of the cars is how low he could enter turn 1 and exits turn 2 and 4.
Yeah.
That was something that I always thought.
If you enter
really
low,
good.
usually you're exiting high.
Yeah, and that means his car is turning really well.
Chase Briscoe has 3 straight top 10 finishes here and a best start here of 5th in this race last year. This is the Bass Pro Shops Toyota. He has the best all-time at Texas Motor Speedway, 9.0. 28.68 in practice. 28.44 here, 2/10 better. Puts him 12th at the moment. Austin Dillon, a pole winner here in the fall race in 2016 and a winner in 2020. The Bass Pro Shops Winchester Chevrolet was 10th in practice at 28.55.
Well, we've seen Austin have a couple of good runs over the past few weeks, and like we're talking with some of these other cars, they needed to kind of stop the bleeding and did that, and were able to start to push their way up the qualifying order, got a couple of solid finishes, and hopefully they can continue with that momentum.
28.55 in practice, and he picks up not quite 2/10, 28.38, 10th fastest.
Kevin, you were all over it, and I always find it a challenge from up here to show how hard it is to find your groove and where you want to be landing into turn 1, because you know the exit of turn 2 is so important. As you see Daniel Suarez going off into the corner, the arc, you see how Ty Gibbs was lower than him. It rolled through. He got the big arc. That corner kind of falls off too. You lose the banking a little bit as you go off in there, and then all of a sudden you look down and find your apex. Oh, there it went. It's gone. I'm too high on the corner, and I scrubbed a ton of speed doing it, and the front tires still haven't turned so I can go back to the gas.
So this is the Kubota Chevrolet. Their U.S. headquarters are in Grapevine, Texas. They make tractors, mowers, utility vehicles, and I think they have all of them on display out here behind the grandstand.
Good product.
Big
all the way
activation.
through.
So let's talk about that line into turn 1. As you see Ricky Stenhouse go in the corner right here, there's a sign on the outside wall that hangs over the racetrack, and the lines that are painted, the hash marks on the racetrack. So you know, we see the 47 car there go into the corner. Ty Gibbs way deeper into the corner, and that's the balance that we talk about. How deep do I drive it in the corner? How much can I push it? And you see the biggest difference right there that we've seen over the last few cars between the 54 and the 47. But that outside sign, the hash marks, because you cannot see the apex of that corner. Those are your references as lift points and where you are on the racetrack.
Well, the Sonny D Chevrolet of Stenhouse, the first car that is slower in qualifying than practice, he's 24th. All right, look at this. Clint got one right. How about that?
The Philistines have assembled.
I have a giant. What?
My king, I will fight the giant.
And one stone changed the course of history.
Let's go see what NASCAR on Prime's all about. Let's do this. Starting off big, the Coke 600.
Green flag.
Woo-hoo! Nashville. Michigan? Hell yeah! And Mexico City. Mexico City?
Someone say road course?
Yeah. Finally, Pocono. Stream all 5 Cup Series races. NASCAR! It's on Prime! Come on!
The NWSL is the most competitive league in the world.
You're watching Avengers Assemble.
I channel my inner Dennis Rodman on the field.
Oh man, the league has grown and it's awesome to see.
NWSL is changing. Almost an entire generation is leaving just as the game is beginning to soar.
I'll leave everything on the field, but I want this title.
10 cars to go in qualifying. Ty Gibbs is fastest. Clint, show us why turn 1 and that entry to turn 1 is so difficult.
I'm going to let Kevin take this.
Yeah, so you've got a couple reference points. You see this sign right here. That's one. Usually you're going to lift probably right in here. And then you have 2 strategies. You can dump the throttle. Most likely you're going to trail out of the throttle. But if you're not turning, you dump the throttle. And you see this, the arc of the wall. You see how that wall is. The wall tells you the story of the racetrack. Well, they've moved this banking down. They flattened. They made the racetrack wider. So the old racetrack was probably somewhere, you know, right in there, about a lane up.
Probably followed that wall.
And now it's so wide. When you get to this sign going into turn 1, you can't see the apex of the corner. So you have to use
which is clear over here.
Yeah, you have to use these hash marks and signs and things as reference points to get the car where you need it to be.
So those dotted lines, you're 3 lanes down the straightaway, and then they have it striped for 4 lanes in the corner.
And that's how much wider they made the racetrack when they redid the corner down here. They knocked some of the banking, or they didn't really, or they knocked the banking. They just made the track
moving it
wider.
down did knock the banking out. Yeah.
So that it changed the angle of that corner, but very, very difficult corner because this racetrack is fast. But the timing of where you lift and where you turn dictates where you are on the racetrack in the middle of the corner, which in qualifying right here dictates the whole lap and the speed of the lap from the center of the exit of turn 2.
We talk about the exit of turn 2. It's all started in turn 1.
Michael McDowell was green light all the way to the finish line, 28-22. He was 5th in practice. He picks up 2.5 tenths, top of the board by what, 6 1/1000ths of a second.
Great lap, Michael McDowell.
The Delaware Life Chevy. Here's the Rush Truck Center's board for Noah Gregson.
Had a lot of speed, a lot of confidence in practice. Do not overdrive this car.
3rd in practice with a 28-42. Looking for his first top 20 start at Texas, and he should get it here.
I think that's what I saw right there, Kevin. Got off into turn 1 really hard and low and paid the price on the exit of 2.
Well, the thing that, as we watch Noah finish his lap right here.
Solid 11th, 28-36. Picked up not quite a 10th.
Yeah, and the thing that we need to pay attention to, Michael McDowell is a great qualifier, but that Carson Hocevar car and this car right here will be fast as well. But Hocevar, he was really fast in practice, so I'm interested to see what he does when he goes next. But he'll have to beat this one, I would say, as well.
Tyler Reddick in the Jordan Brand Toyota, a winner here in September 22. Second best all-time average finish at this track. Started top 10 3 of the last 4 races here.
Yeah, not as close to the pole as I expected him to be. It's going to be kind of an average run there for Reddick, but we expect him to contend in the race tomorrow.
When it boils down to such a fine line from your lap, and that being the center, in my opinion, 1 and 2, it puts a lot of pressure on these drivers. They know, they watch the data, they know exactly the speed and how to do it. They got to go out there and try to match that, duplicate it, even beat that. Very challenging to do. A lot of pressure on them.
Reddick not quite 2 tenths faster than practice, and here's the fastest car from practice at 28-28.
Look how much speed he has in the bank already. He was way ahead of him even coming to the green.
Carson Hocevar in the Chili's Ride the Dente Chevrolet.
Well, he's riding it all right. Right off into the sunset.
From 28-28 in practice to 28-17.
P1.
Wow.
17 over 22.
Whew. What a statement by those two Spire cars right there.
He can breathe now because he didn't on that lap.
Spire Motorsports has the front row right now with Hocevar and McDowell. Bubba Wallace in the McDonald's Toyota, pole winner here in 2023, finished a track best third that day. He was 18th in practice with a 28.65.
I didn't even see the lap yet in the ghost car, but I could hear how much he let out of the gas, and I knew there was no way he could match the speed of that Hocevar.
Fastest Toyota right now is Ty Gibbs in third. Wallace is sixth, 28.24. He picks up 4/10.
Not bad.
I love when they wear those clear shields like that. You can see the intensity in his eyes when he's making that lap.
Alex Bowman in the Ally Chevrolet for Hendrick Motorsports. 7 straight top 10s on 1.5 miles.
We're going to see what Hendrick has. All of them right here in the last 5 cars.
Not quite as much speed on the entry to the corner right there as Hocevar.
Bowman was 7th in practice with a 28.46.
And once you see where they exit, and once they get to about the middle of the back straightaway, you pretty much know where they're going to fall in the lap. As Bowman's about a 10th off right there, runs a 28.28, puts him 8th.
2/10 pickup. Chase Elliott celebrating 100 years of Napa Auto Parts on his Hendrick Chevrolet, winner of this race last year.
Well, you covered it in practice, Clint. We talked about needing a little bit of speed, and if you're going to find it, this will be a great way to get your day started, but it just doesn't look like it's there for the 9 today, Clint.
Well, the overall speed was definitely not there in practice. Their takeoff speed was a little bit off, so it doesn't surprise me we didn't see it in qualifying here.
Elliott was 23rd in practice.
If any team is good at grinding things out and getting the most out of a finish of a race, it's this 9 team.
26th with a 28.58. Spire Motorsports has never had a front row sweep. This would be the first time with Hocevar and McDowell up front right now.
A lot of momentum, a lot of speed out of this 2 car early in practice.
Austin Cindric was 11th in practice with a 28.56. He's the last Ford to qualify. Barry the quickest of those.
Kevin, I saw it again right there. Saw it when Hocevar took over the pole position. The speed that he carried to the green, where did that come from? I mean, he had a car length and a half on him before we ever even started the lap.
Yeah, and I'd have to go back and see if he ran in a different spot on the racetrack, up a lane or something, because it is so drastically different.
It's going to be close. Second by 2/100ths. Austin Cindric. It knocks Spire out of both sides of the front row, but Hocevar is still fastest with 2 cars to go.
2 Hendrick cars.
Well, we know this one right here of William Byron. He has been consistently good. We've seen him qualify really well, but once again, you know, you're giving up 2 car lengths before you even get to turn 1 as you take the green flag.
William Byron started outside front row here in 2019. This is the Raptor Chevrolet. And he goes green on our timer.
Yeah.
You got to be careful with this ghost car. Something's got it, a little bit of bug in it. I still think
1/100th off.
Woo!
Byron to the outside of the front row.
Boy, that's close.
All right,
Kev.
1 to go. Now Kyle Larson, who will substitute for injured Connor Zilic today, pole winner last year in this race, has 1 win here. And Larson was 4th in practice at 28.43. He's going to need to pick up 3/10 to take the pole away from Hocevar.
Man, it's so close. Look how close these times are.
Fourth for Larson, 28.21. 4th by 3.5/100ths. And Carson Hocevar has his first career pole in his 56th start. Regan, watch that punch.
Mike, I will try to stay away from punches down here. It's high fives down here right now for Carson Hocevar, your first career pole. You were quickest in practice. You backed it up in qualifying. I imagine this has got to be a great day for you.
Yeah, it's really big. It's really big for these guys. You know, it's super impressive for what they've been able to do. You know, this is the same group on pit road, off pit road, at the shop. Everybody working on the 77 is exactly the same as what I started here at Spire last year. And they were a lot of the same guys that were, you know, in the thick of it. So it's just huge where we've been able to bring this team, and you know, Chili's coming on board, being able to ride the Dead Tay, and you know, having the cowboy outfit right is, you know, what better place to get on a pole. I'm normally so hard on myself, and I still didn't think I nailed that lap at all, but yeah, super proud of this team, and proud because I've never been #1 pit stall, and I've had a lot of issues with pit road. We've had a lot of bad luck. So I finally get #1 pit stall, so I'm pumped about that.
Guys have really been carrying some momentum the past couple weeks. You talk about that pit stall. You'll have track position on a racetrack that it can be very challenging tomorrow, especially side by side. How much is that going to factor into your day tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. You know, whether you were doing 2, 4, fuel only at times, right, just knowing we're going to have an open out is going to be really important, really crucial. That hasn't been what we've been able to do, and we've had a lot of fluke stuff. I mean, even on the truck, having an alternator go bad when we're running second. This eases that pain a little bit. But yeah, I love racing, love driving for Jeff Dickerson, Spire Motorsports, everybody with TWG, everybody that makes this happen, Aaron Ziegler, Aaron Beaver, Williams contracted, everybody that just helps make this thing go around. There's so many people to thank, but yeah, I'm excited to be able to lead my first ever Cup race to the green.
All right, enjoy this one overnight. Larry Mack, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm with William Brown outside of the front row. William, I don't even know how you quantify 1/10 of a second at a 1.5-mile racetrack. Did you get everything you had there?
I don't know. I feel like I got through, I felt a little slow coming to the green, and I was like, man, I don't know why, like whether I just didn't get off pit road as good or what. And then, you know, I cut the front stretch, and I had a little bit of a different line into 1, and felt like I hit 1 and 2 pretty good. I was just like right on the edge of being too tight. And then 3 and 4 was wide open. And I just, you know, it's 100. So I knew I had a good lap. I was just like, you know, I saw a 1:7.9. I'm like, he told me a 17 before I went out. So I'm like, that's probably not enough. So just appreciate all the guys on the 24. They did a great job today. We've been good on the 1.5 miles, obviously, and just trying to dial in our race balance and feel like we're really close. We kind of weird practice with starting in traffic, but I think our Raptor Chevy's capable of winning. So we just gotta keep it up front all day.
Yeah, Mike, I stand corrected. I guess I've been hanging out with Clint too much. Not 1/10 of a second. I guess it's more like 100th of a second difference.
Pretty close, Larry. 14 1/1000ths of a second, first to second. 2 Chevrolets on the front row. Hocevar, youngest pole winner ever at Texas, and the second fastest pole ever in the next-gen car. Chevy's on the front row. Fastest Ford is Cindric in 3rd. The quickest Toyota is Gibbs in 6th.
Well, you see a lot of the normal players up there, obviously with the surprise of Spire, but you see Allmendinger back there in 10th. Another great run for those guys, putting themselves up front to start. Tyler Reddick, that's one of the bigger surprises for me, going off 17th right there.
There's some more.
Row 9.
I agree with you, Kevin. This is the one that's got me a little bit concerned. Look at here. Ryan Blaney still digging himself out of that hole that he's in. Brad Keselowski and Chase Elliott. Logano's right there in this one. A lot of good cars coming from the back.
Kyle Busch as well.
You know what they're going to need? Going to need some strategy.
Well,
Larry, I hope your math's a little bit better tomorrow than it was today.
And you see the rest of the field right here. You've got Ross Chastain and Ryan Preece. Those guys have a lot of work to do tomorrow.
So tomorrow, NASCAR Cup racing from Texas Motor Speedway, pre-race coverage at 2 Eastern, followed by the Worth 400 presented by Liqui-Moly, 3:30 p.m. only on FS1. So thanks for watching NASCAR on Prime. We'll have practice and qualifying coverage each week through the first half of the season, including next Saturday for Cup practice and qualifying from Kansas at 4:30 Eastern Time. 400 miles at Texas tomorrow, and this young man, 22 years old, youngest pole winner ever at Texas, Carson Hocevar, will lead them to green in his Chevrolet.